Back with us on India Unleashed. Is it now or never? Is it time for us to see some politics of change? There's somebody who here made that comment about how India Inc. has sort of certainly done its bit. It has delivered. And I want to ask you, Mr. Nanda, do you feel that at times there is this constant debate within the country where there's an effort to pull down the efforts of India Inc.? There is talk about whether it starts from CEO salaries to whatever contribution that India Inc. makes. Is there time that India Inc. also gets a pat on the back from the government in some ways that will celebrate leadership that we just talked about?
Look, Lord Desai also said that the growth has come primarily from, and if we had agricultural sector and the other sectors growing, we would have grown. The services sector have grown in double digit, and so is the manufacturing sector. India Inc. needs the pat, but India Inc. also needs to have a little more discipline in what they're doing. The pat does come occasionally, but what is actually more disturbing is, I think we are making the system, as Som said it, simple regulation. You saw that happened in tax. When I started working, tax rates were 90% and tax collections were nowhere. You brought down the rates, people volunteer. The amount of black money that is generated in the country today is far less than what it was done. I think you simplify the procedures, it will be easier for people to implement them.
Okay.
And I think the India Inc. and the government should work together rather than bringing in more regulation. You need to have better enforcement, you need better governance. Where is accountability for not doing something in this country?
Right. Okay, cool. Mr. Desai, Lord Desai, sorry. If you could just take us through your take on this. Let's simplify things rather than calling them jugaad and just getting by.
No, I think, the whole jugaad business is an excuse. We kind of think, it'll all turn out to be all right. That excuse is a lack of preparation as happened in CWG and so on. I think what is required is that we have to appreciate the private sector. When it is successful, it has succeeded because a lot of hard work, a lot of innovation has gone into it. Where the private sector has to be nifty is to avoid all the landmines planted by the government processes. And so, of course, the Indian private sector has to be very clever. But it could be even much more fantastic if we let it do things systematically, if we gave it a proper legal structure which everybody can trust will work. Right now the legal structure is there, it's elaborate, but it doesn't work, so there's a lot of delay, a lot of court proceedings, a lot of bribery. And I think, yes, the Indian private sector is fantastic, full of energy, full of competitiveness, but it could be better if the state got out of its way and did what the state ought to do the policing properly, do the regulatory thing properly, but not actually put them hand in other people's pockets.
Okay, so trust. I'm going to pick that and actually throw this discussion to the audience because I think at various stages, everyone has a lack of confidence, a lack of trust. Whether we start from the economy of the private sector to just the state of the politics in the country. So those with questions, raise hands and I'm going to reach out to you. Okay, let's start with the gentleman there. Where's the mic? Ask your question.
I want to know, we keep talking about how India Inc. has done well despite of the system. Why does it have to be despite of the system? Why does it that always comes in, whether you're talking about politics, whether you're talking about business. Oh, I did well despite the system. You're choosing a candidate, who's the lesser of the two evils. Why does it always have to be like that?
Okay, why does it always have to be like that? Sajid, do you want to take a quick one?
And this is a critical issue because, the difference between 9% growth and 11% growth like China's had for 2 decades is the state creating the right environment for the private sector to thrive in. Infrastructure, law and order, transparency. So I think more than ever now, the public and private sector has to work together. The public-private partnership model infrastructure is the key to building the roads, the ports, the airports we need.
Or actually doing anything. The public sector, private sector model, do you think at some ways has been a little over-exaggerated? Is that story that hasn't quite succeeded or taken off?
No, I think it has taken off. It's just taken its time because it was completely something new. And while we say private sector has succeeded despite or has done so much despite the government, I don't entirely agree. I think government policies, I believe that government, the fact that there's law and order, there is a judiciary, there is a whole system under which we flourish. So that has played a role. And in order to just answer this question, there is always a good alternative. It's a question of looking for it, whether it's in politics or in business. So it isn't as if everything is bad.
But my point is that how do you fix a system in which we have so many complaints? Who is going to give the solution if everybody practically who's part of the system is very much entrenched in these scams?
Then, Shally, I have
Who
to
are you looking towards? I want to ask you that.
I have to look towards, and I would look towards, as the country would, towards the leadership, and it has to be a political leadership. No matter what we say about India Inc. or its great leaders, finally, it is the leadership which governs the country that is the most important. We are not anything in that. And if we go back 70, 80 years, we did have leadership in this country which provided a moral compass, which provided and which said that these things are good, these things should be done, these things should not be done. And unless and until we have leadership that takes us along that path, and it has to be a political leadership, we will not see our way out of this. We'll just be having more and more discussions like this and not meet the expectations of people like who are here in this audience and who look forward to working in this new India.
At some level, do I get a sense that all of you are suggesting that it's not going to be a solution if we just hang some people, put somebody in jail? These are not solutions we're looking for, because this is probably likely to happen in the short term as a fallout of these scams.
You need that. As I said earlier, you need to punish both the giver and the taker, the guy who got the benefit and the guy who paid the money. But at the same time, the solution will come if you streamline your processes. I think if you ask me personally, we probably need to rewrite our constitution, because with the way so many states have come and regional parties not having one party in the center, we should probably rewrite the constitution to have a presidential form or somebody that we elect. He's been talking right from the beginning of leadership. Now, if you have a consensus required for a leader, the poor leader has also becomes a compromise. No?
Everybody's voting for it.
But I'm saying
democratic process.
But the question is that you have so many regional parties. You take our state, for example. How many regional parties are there? Then there are national parties. I think we need to have a system by which we elect leadership right from the top. Okay. Now, that's a long-drawn process. Now, I just want to finish. You need to punish, but simply if, as it was mentioned by the leaders in the last plenary session, let us demonstrate that there is a punishment. It's not the severity of the punishment, it is the quick certainty of punishment which is more important. Okay. If punishment happens and the speed with it, but certainty is more important. Okay. And the second thing is, let us take discretion out of the system. Let us have rules which are enforced and which are simple and which are easier for implement.
Let me get a few more questions here, because this is getting very interesting for these students. Okay, go ahead.
My question is, which end is more closer? The one where we all succumb and give in to corruption, or the one where corruption will eventually be overlapped?
You have to stand up. The young people, you can actually change this country, because if you stop giving, because for every person who gets, there is a person. If you stand up and say that if I have jumped a traffic light, I will not put a 50 rupee note into the driving license, I'll pay 100 rupees and take a receipt. Next time the policeman will not harass you.
I really admire the fact that you brought that up, but I want to ask you, is that a feasible solution in the state of our country today?
It is.
The question is, which is closer? And I would just say...
Are we being idealistic?
I would just say we should not lose hope. Obviously, it's a very tough, very, very hard path ahead. And but we should not lose hope, because if we lose hope, we will never get there. And it is important to get there.
So do not take it, even if it is the new normal in India today. Yeah, okay, next question, go ahead.
I'd like to know your opinion on something. Y'all have been speaking a lot about leadership, right? But, okay, the leader who leads the herd. But doesn't that leader come from the herd? So I personally feel that it's not important that 1-2% that lead are not as important as the remaining 98% that are led?
I think that's a very good question that he's brought up, and we will have that answered. Show me, you want to start, and then I'll go to...
I think the question is, how do you define the herd? How many here would be willing to join politics, right? How many would prefer to sit back and then comment about corruption, laws are not there? How many of you want to become lawmakers?
Yeah. How many of you want to join politics? Guys, hands up. How many hands?
There you
3.
go. There you go.
We're talking about 3 out of 30. Okay, so let's put this question to Vikram. Vikram, here's somebody who says that, well, when you find a leader, and we are debating the issue of how good the leadership is, the leader is often part of the same herd. And that herd is not necessarily the most qualified or inspirational to lead. How would you respond to that?
I would disagree. I actually am amazed at myself. I've never been so optimistic. But that's probably because in response to your questions. But no, I would disagree. I mean, I look at, let's say, Nitish Kumar's election in Bihar. I look at the fact that Naveen Patnaik has been re-elected 3 times. And I asked the question, and I'm not a politician, I know nothing about these individuals, but I only know what I've heard. And on one hand, we hear that Nitish Kumar has won on the basis of, development, security. The Naveen Patnaik has been re-elected despite his relative lack of understanding of the language, because he's seen as a clean politician. Who elected him? Who elected these people? It was the 98% of the herd.
Ashwini wants to make a quick point.
Yeah, and the same herd has produced people like, Mahatma Gandhi or Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, who've been completely, phenomenal in their leadership qualities, and they've taken the path of, righteousness and everything. So I think there is potential. I think each one of you, each one of us has that potential, and I think that's
so don't look at the next person to blame yourself, at least for now. Right, stay right there. We're back in a moment. The debate goes on. Now or never.